The trumpeters and singers performed together in unison to praise and give thanks to the Lord. Accompanied by trumpets, cymbals, and other instruments, they raised their voices and praised the Lord with these words: "He is good. His faithful love endures forever." At that moment, a thick cloud filled the temple of the Lord. The priests could not continue their service because of the cloud, for the glorious presence of the Lord filled the temple of God. This kind of has shades of, back in Exodus, when God was leading the people through the wilderness. He led them with a cloud during the day. And then, the cloud would settle on a certain spot and actually, fill the tabernacle wherever that was set up. So, there was already a precedent for God's presence being symbolized by cloud cover. What's up, cool people? My name's Matt. Welcome back to our Bible study. Alright, so we are looking at 2 Chronicles chapter 5. The first 4 chapters, honestly, are almost summed up in this first verse here, in a way. Solomon is king over Israel. This is, by the way, recapping stuff that happened for the sake of the Israelite exiles, because, Assyria and Babylon kind of took over, and people got scattered because of integrating them into the incoming kingdom's culture. And then now a guy, I think it's Ezra, but somebody clearly wants them to know that, kind of what happened, how they got there, especially with those times being very much like an oral tradition of things. If they didn't have access to the writings of the events that got them in that situation, then somebody who was able to do the research on all that might have come to them and said, "Hey, here's all this stuff that happened. Maybe from here we could figure out how to make it better." Because, being exiled from their homeland was not something they enjoyed, I imagine. But anyway, so in the recap, Solomon's king. He's built the temple, pretty much. And then we get to this chapter here. So, yeah, here we go. 2 Chronicles chapter 5. So Solomon finished all his work on the temple of the Lord. Then he brought all the gifts his father David had dedicated, the silver, the gold, and the various articles, and he stored them in the treasuries of the temple of God. Solomon then summoned to Jerusalem the elders of Israel and all the heads of tribes, the leaders of the ancestral families of Israel. They were to bring the Ark of the Lord's Covenant to the temple from its location in the city of David, also known as Zion. So all the men of Israel assembled before the king at the annual festival of shelters, which is held in early autumn. I'm going to pause there for a bit, because then it's going to get into actually moving the ark. So, for some reason, when it mentioned David's gifts of silver and gold and all those things, I don't know, I guess in a way I thought those were going to be used more so for actually, making the stuff that was going to be used in the temple. But this sounds more like, alright, temple's built, everything's done. Now these gifts that David dedicated, it does also say the various articles. In any case, it sounds more like the silver and gold was then just kept in the treasury, as it describes, to, pay for stuff in the future, or some other later use. Not that it's going to waste or anything, but it's just, I don't know. I had a different idea of what that was going to be used for. So then Solomon is asking the leaders to come to Jerusalem Because that's, where the... I mean, okay, so first of all, it mentions Jerusalem here, and then also says City of David, Zion. I think those are all the same place, pretty much. There might be a subsection within Jerusalem that's more so referred to as the City of David / Zion. I don't know, but anyway, Jerusalem was the capital. At least ever since David made it so. But the idea is to get the Ark of the Covenant / the Ark of the Lord from where David put it in his, specific tent that was made just to have that there until the temple was built. Take it from there to the temple, which really should be kind of more so like on the outskirts of Jerusalem. It was built on the field that David bought from, I think it was Arana, but yeah, it was bought initially for him to make an altar per the Lord's command, as there was bad stuff happening, and he was trying to, plead his case to God, kind of make up for what had been done wrong. But anyway, so they're going to move the Ark of the Covenant to the temple more permanently. Now, the note here about the festival of shelters says, Hebrews says, at the festival that is in the 7th month. Festival of Shelters began on the 15th day of the 7th month of the ancient Hebrew lunar calendar, which occurred in late September, October, or early November. Yeah, so rather than use the Hebrew calendar and confuse modern English readers, they decided to say that it was happening in early autumn, rather than, the festival in the 7th month. Well, lunar calendar different than modern calendar, and so things can fall on different times depending on the moon cycles and things like that. So, yeah, that says early autumn. I wouldn't consider November to be early autumn, but maybe that's just me. Of course, I don't know, the seasons can be a little deceptive sometimes, but I digress. Not going to get on that tangent. So, let's move on to verse 4. When all the elders of Israel arrived, the Levites picked up the ark. The priests and Levites brought up the ark along with the special tent and all the sacred items that had been in it. There, before the ark, King Solomon and the entire community of Israel sacrificed so many sheep, goats, and cattle that no one could keep count. Then the priests carried the ark of the Lord's covenant into the inner sanctuary of the temple, the most holy place, and placed it beneath the wings of the cherubim. The cherubim spread their wings over the ark, forming a canopy over the ark and its carrying poles. These poles were so long that their ends could be seen from the holy place, which is in front of the most holy place, but not from outside. They are still there to this day. Nothing was in the ark except the 2 stone tablets that Moses had placed in it at Mount Sinai, where the Lord made a covenant with the people of Israel when they left Egypt. Okay, pausing there for a bit, because that was a good number of verses to try. Anyway, so, yeah, of course, the priests and the Levites had to be the ones to move it. Because that was what God said. That was... Only they could really even, touch it. Or even, touch the poles and stuff that were used to move it. The last time they tried moving it without following those directions, a dude wound up dead just trying to stabilize it on the cart that it was on. And yeah, that was an issue. But, so they moved the Ark into its place in the temple, specifically within the most holy place, aka the Holy of Holies. And it sat there. Now, a couple of chapters ago, it described these large cherubim statues that literally their wings spanned the entire width of the room, which was 30 feet. So, this is sitting under there, kind of almost covered by the wings. You know, vertically covered, not like... Anyway. But the poles to carry the Ark were visible from just outside the most holy place. Not necessarily further away than that, but it, like... I guess that was kind of a way of saying that, look, the Ark of the Covenant itself wasn't small. The poles to carry it were visible from outside the most holy place. And yet it was still covered above by the wings of these cherubim statues. So, yeah, needless to say that those were quite large. Okay. Gonna look at the notes here. Hebrews says the tent of meeting, i.e. the tent mentioned in 2 Samuel 6:17 and 1 Chronicles 16:1. But not to be confused with when it mentions a tent of meeting describing the tabernacle, because I don't think that's supposed to be the same thing. I think it would have described it as the tabernacle in that note, or something like that. Anyway, so maybe that was in reference to the tent that David made to temporarily have the Ark of the Covenant there. But it makes me wonder what the special tent then wound up being used for, because its whole purpose was sort of just like a temporary place for the Ark of the Covenant. At least initially. Let's see here. Then next note about the poles being visible from the holy place. That's, as in some Hebrew manuscripts in the Greek version, the Masoretic text reads from the Ark. That doesn't really make a whole lot of sense. Of course the poles were visible from the Ark, that were used to carry the Ark. But just, I think that's just the translators noting, hey, these ancient manuscripts that we pull from for these translations, this one says something a little different than the others, but most of them say this, so we're going with this. Okay. Note there at Mount Sinai, Hebrew says Horeb, which, yeah, was just another name for the same place. One of those might have a translation more accurately, well, because that's also the place that was called the Mountain of God at some places in the Bible, so... Or Mountain of the Lord, I should say. But anyway, same place. It's just saying that the tablets that were in the Ark of the Covenant were the same ones that were received at Mount Sinai. So, really, the Ark was... I mean, that's why it was called the Ark of the Covenant, because that was the initiation of the covenant between God and his people. Alright, anyway. Okay, so, the Ark has been placed in the temple. Then we move on to verse 11. Then the priests left the holy place, All the priests who were present had purified themselves, whether or not they were on duty that day. And the Levites who were musicians, Asaph, Heman, Jeduthun, and all their sons and brothers, were dressed in fine linen robes, and stood at the east side of the altar playing cymbals, lyres, and harps. They were joined by 120 priests who were playing trumpets. The trumpeters and singers performed together in unison to praise and give thanks to the Lord. Accompanied by trumpets, cymbals, and other instruments, they raised their voices and praised the Lord with these words: "He is good. His faithful love endures forever." At that moment, a thick cloud filled the temple of the Lord. The priests could not continue their service because of the cloud, for the glorious presence of the Lord filled the temple of God. Now, this kind of has shades of, back in Exodus, when God was leading the people through the wilderness. He led them with a cloud during the day. And then, the cloud would settle on a certain spot and actually, fill the tabernacle wherever that was set up. So, there was already a precedent for God's presence being symbolized by cloud cover. So I think that's kind of what's going on here. It's all right, the temple has been built, the Ark of the Lord is placed here, and God is now showing the people that, yep, I'm here. This is the place. And of course that happened in amongst the celebration over the temple being built, the ark being placed there, and all that kind of stuff happening. So it's they're doing this stuff, and then the cloud comes in, and it's okay, hold up. We can't see a thing. We don't really know what's going on here anymore. And it says the priests could not continue their service. Almost makes me wonder if any offerings that might have been made at the time also had to stop. In any case, yeah. So that's really about all we get in this chapter, kind of on the shorter side. So, the Ark of the Covenant has made it to the temple. Hooray! Alright, so that's all we get for 2 Chronicles chapter 5. So, of course, the whole point of making the temple was to have a new house of worship to the Lord, and they're not going to have that without the Ark of the Covenant in there. So, I guess now it's essentially ready to have all the ceremonies and things like that happen in the temple. Maybe not 100%, but you got the basics of what you need there. You got the Ark of the Covenant, you got the altar for the offerings, you got the, wash basin for the priests to cleanse themselves before performing the rituals and ceremonies and whatnot. Got instruments in there for all that stuff too. But anyway, yeah. Not too much else that I think I need to say about all that. So as always, like the video if you enjoyed it, share with others if you want them to see it. Subscribe to the channel and click the bell to get updates when I post new videos. Look down in the description for links to social media pages, Discord server, supporter page, all sorts of good stuff, different ways to find my content and interact and all that. And of course, if you want to interact with the video right here, just look down below and leave your thoughts and questions in the comment section. So that's going to do it for now. Hope you're all doing well. Hopefully I'll see you soon for another video, but whatever the case is, till next time, stay cool, people.